Hello and welcome back to the channel. So the reason my voice is a little bit hush-hush is because I'm actually in a wildlife hide at the moment at RSPB Lakenheath Fen. Now the reason I'm here, because I'm not particularly well known for my hide photography, is because there's a storm called Storm Brendan, which is above the UK at the moment, and the weather forecast isn't looking too good with high winds and a lot of rain. But it seems actually that we seem to have escaped the worst of it here in Norfolk, although possibly it could just be starting. So yeah, and I'm also feeling a bit under the weather, so it's a good time to be in a hide. Now I was hoping to photograph some kingfishers, although at the moment I haven't seen anything and I've been here for about half an hour. So I thought it'd be a good time to sort of talk about my recent appearance on BBC One's Countryfile. So Sunday just gone, I had about a 3-minute segment on Countryfile, and basically the BBC approached me and they asked if I'd like to do a small segment for their programme, and that would be at Welney, which is a wetland centre just down the road to where I live. Now naturally I sort of jumped at the opportunity to be involved with anything BBC. I'm a big fan of the BBC's involvement with wildlife and nature, just period. But to be on Countryfile was just a dream come true, and I think that's the same for pretty much any photographer. So yeah, I mean, the day itself was horrendous. I was completely demotivated when I saw just how cold, wet and windy the day of filming actually was. Now I filmed everything on my Lumix G80, and that held up really well in the dreadful weather. So yeah, I was really demotivated. I really didn't think the day had gone well at all. I really thought I'd messed up with the filming and that I hadn't got anything usable for the BBC. And then after watching the show on Sunday, I was absolutely elated. The segment was brilliant, and to be fair, I'm not a massive fan of watching my own face, but it was really, really good, and that was echoed by all the nice messages that I've received since then. If you are interested in watching that episode, it's available now on BBC iPlayer. Just search Countryfile. In fact, I'll leave a link in the description. You can click on that and it will take you straight to that episode of Countryfile. A lot of people have sort of questioned how I was able to appear on the programme, and they wanted to sort of increase their own sort of exposure as a photographer. Now the main mistake I see people making is that they assume if they post a few nice photos on Instagram, which I will repeat is literally the worst platform for photographers, post a few pictures on Instagram, a few on Facebook, and suddenly they will become a wildlife photographer that's flown off all around the world to take photos of wild animals. It just doesn't work like that. Even myself, I'm always trying to obviously increase exposure, but it's really, really difficult, and a lot of the very well-known wildlife photographers have gained that reputation from decades of work, so it's definitely not something that's going to become an overnight success. Now, the way in which I was approached by the BBC was that I obviously have a website. If you're interested in it, it's joe-marano.com, but I obviously have a website, and if you search for a wildlife photographer in Norfolk or Norfolk wildlife photography, I'll obviously pop up, and from there you can view all my photos, you can view my Instagram, you can see that I've got YouTube videos, and obviously for the BBC it was quite quick and easy for them to see a kind of a portfolio, what I was all about. And obviously as the segment on Countryfile was on hares, I've actually had quite a lot of success with photographing hares. They'd obviously seen all that and decided that I was the man for the job. So yeah, that's just the way that I was approached. Now, if the BBC hadn't have been looking for someone to do a piece on hares, then obviously they wouldn't have approached me. I was very lucky in that regard. But just in general, I think people, to raise your exposure as a photographer, you really need to kind of get to grips with your own community. My own community where I live is incredibly supportive of my photography. 99% of my sales have come from people that live very close to me, so definitely don't neglect your own area. So yeah, hopefully that's been slightly helpful. I definitely think a website or an online presence, and as many online presences as you can have, is definitely going to help you out when you're trying to increase your exposure. But for now, I'll wrap it up from here. I really want to start paying attention outside of the hide, and hopefully I'll spot some kingfishers. If not, I've got a few good photos that I've sort of took elsewhere on the reserve. So if nothing happens, I'll post them up, and I will definitely see you on the next one. Take care.